Hello, I'm Dan Maher. This is the syllabus for Math 93 for summer quarter 2016. Right up here on the right is my contact information, Mr. Dan Maher. My email is dmaher@wvc.edu, and this is a good phone number for me almost all the time. I won't have any office hours since this is the only class I have this summer. The text is right here. It's elementary and intermediate algebra, 6th edition, with this author, Bittinger, and so on. You need an online access code to get into something called My Math Lab, which, if you're watching this video, you're already there. It isn't necessary that you buy the paper book because there's an online version of the book too. I'll allow a TI-30 calculator for the proctored tests, so I would recommend that you have one or equivalent that you're used to using, so when we do proctored tests you won't have to relearn a device, and which is basically it can't have graphing capability or programmability, so you can't store information in it. Here's kind of bullets of what we're going to cover in this course. Um, it amounts to chapters 1, 2, and 3 in the book, and if we have enough time this summer, we'll touch a little bit on chapter 8. But generally, what we're going to do is, it's going to start out easier. It's very easy at the beginning to say, "Oh, I know this stuff. I'm not going to spend much time." But there's really we really want to focus in on picking up concepts and understanding the language of algebra, and then hopefully you can just become a problem solver. There's going to be way too many different types of techniques involved in this course to memorize um, techniques, and if that's your strategy, um, you may do well in the first chapter, but if you have any missing concepts, second chapter will be a real problem. So try to keep that in mind as you approach the course, is that you want to understand, what the distributive law really is, and the commutative and the associative, and what those mean and why they work the way they do. You got to get those main concepts on, um, and then apply them, basically. So here's a list of that, and then I do put in here tests will be announced and given on instructor's discretion. Um, in this online version, there will not be any unannounced tests or quizzes. The as I go through the different parts, we'll talk about how the grading works, but also how you will take your homework and your quizzes and your chapter tests and final tests. So there is a final exam. Week is August 19th, 2016, and I'll talk about that. Our final test is really an open book type test. You'll be able to do that test over multiple days, all during that finals period. The grades are based on points earned on assigned homework. If if some of the students I know have been in my math labs before, and maybe in different courses they've had different items count for the class, but it's only going to be assigned homework will be part of your grade. That amounts to 10% of your grade. The quizzes are 30% of the grade, and the tests are 60% of the grade. So your, obviously if you add these two things together, 90% of your grade is how you perform on tests. Now the quizzes are a little different on how we're going to manage that. You're going to be able to do those on your own. You're going to be able to do multiple attempts, and I'll talk about some strategies that work best for students. And here's the grading overall percentage as follows. My math lab, this is required. This is a homework and study program. When you do homework on my math lab, there is help available on the website. The homework is on the My Math Lab site, and it's graded there. Your grades will be represented in your My Math Lab portion, and it talks about registering and those kind of things. This is the course name, and this is the course ID. If you're going to drop a class, you need to do it by August 8th. The homework, just a little more detail about that. It isn't a high percentage of your grade, but the goal should be to get 100% on your homework. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't submit an answer till you're absolutely sure. The way the homework works is if you have, and you'll go through the intro, but if you have a problem with, or you're having difficulty with a problem, you can ask for help. And there's about 3 different ways to do that. One is to hit a button and it'll give you a video or step-by-step instructions on how you do that. And another one is, if you get it wrong, you can do one like that, and that's what I recommend. That's how you get 100%. If you submit the answer and it's wrong and you're not sure, I would go through that, and it'll basically pull you into the book and some of the resources that are available on My Math Lab, which is, there's animations and there's actual videos of instruction that talk through the concepts, and it's very useful stuff. And so I got this one question wrong. What I can do is do another one like it, and when I get that one right, when I do that problem, if I get that correct, then that's what counts. The wrong answer goes away, and you are sitting at 100%. So that would be the goal. And I get pretty concerned when I see students doing homework and they're getting into the 70-80%, which means that you're possibly just practicing doing things wrong. So doing that, especially when you get, even if you think, well, I know how to do this, when you're put under stress, like in a chapter test, proctored test, you tend to fall back on what you've practiced. It's kind of like a basketball player understands how to do a layup, but they don't practice it very often, or they practice in a way that they don't make the points that they need to each time, and then putting under, when they do concentrated effort and all that kind of stuff in practice, they can make it, they do well, but then when they get into a high pressure situation, they'll tend to go back to the thing that they practiced the most, which was missing. So the goal in your homework then is to be able to perform to 100%. Now, I do allow you to take, I have due dates on the homework, and which are almost, there's an assignment due every day in the class, just about, and then when we get into testing, there's a few days for testing. But I do allow you to take or do your homework after the due date, so it's open up to that. Now, if you do not attempt homework, let's say if you went through your chapter 1 homework and you skipped a couple assignments, it'll just show incomplete on there. And once we get to chapter 2 and I start, when we hit the quiz on chapter 2, which is I start doing some testing on the next chapter, I go back and I put zeros in for all the incomplete assignments from the prior chapter. Now, why I'm bringing that up is that when it's not submitted and it's an incomplete, it looks like your grade doesn't reflect that being part of your grade book until there's an actual score in there. So I've seen some students drop, they're sitting thinking, I'm sitting at a B or something and feeling pretty good, but they have a whole bunch of incomplete assignments from the prior chapter. When I go back and fill in all the zeros for that, it could drop them a full letter grade. So make sure you get your assignments done, but you can also miss a due date and you can go back. A lot of times I have students when they're getting close and they want to get ready for the test, a good thing to do would be, if you don't have assignments up to 100% or close to that, go back, and to study for the test, you can go back and fix those places where you had some extra problems. So homework is to practice and get ready for the test. The quizzes, which represent 30% of your grade, what I do is there will be a short period of time that the quiz is open, and you need to take the quiz during that time, and that's my effort to try to keep you on some kind of schedule. So we'll get to the end of the chapter, chapter 1, and I think it's already scheduled into the calendar part when we get into, if you look at my math labs. That quiz will be open for usually 2 days, maybe sometimes longer than that if it goes over a weekend. But you can do multiple attempts at the quiz. And what I recommend is that you take the quiz the first time. But first of all, the multiple attempts are, if you take the quiz 3 times, I just take the highest score that you get on any of those attempts. So first I would say do the attempts. Even if you get 100% on an attempt, I would do another one if you have a chance. It's a good way to study for the test. But there's no risk in having a bad score. So the first attempt, a good strategy is to say, I'm gonna take this like I'm taking a chapter test. I'm going to use my my calculator and blank scratch paper. I'm not going to look at the book or ask for any other resources. I'm not going to have a tutor or some friend that's been helping me, and take that quiz as if I'm taking the test. I see a lot of students get surprised because they think they know the material, but when you take all the resources away, there's just probably small missing pieces that cause a lot of errors in a quiz. And I'd rather find out then than go into that chapter test with no knowledge of what I'm missing. So you get a chance to attempt it in a way that replicates the chapter test. And like I said, you tend to get help for little parts, or possibly big parts that are the missing links to the conceptual problem solving stuff. And so that'll be a good way to see where you're at. And it's going to be at a time where you got some time, hopefully, to fix it if you're missing some things. And then and then usually I have it set to 3 attempts. I think probably all the quizzes for this quarter will be 3 attempts. And so that is on your own. There's no proctoring necessary. Now, chapter tests need to be proctored. They have to be under the supervision of me or another teacher or a proctor. There are ways to arrange for proctoring services if you're out of town. I'm gonna start gathering some information about where all the students are. Hopefully that'll be one of the emails that I'm expecting back from all the students is to tell me where you're at and where you plan to take your chapter tests, proctored tests. And we'll probably have 3 of those this quarter. So there's a lot of weight on those things. So we have, so you want to be as prepared as best you can when you come into those tests. Now I do have access to the campus, so we'll probably one of the classrooms in the Wenatchee Hall on Wenatchee campus has computers at every desk, and we can possibly use that. I'll have to find out the schedule. We also have a computer lab that's accessible too. But if you're out of town, again, that or if you're in OMAC campus, we need to start working on trying to find out when and how you can get a proctor available so you can take your test. In those chapter tests, you get one attempt. So, and to read that, if you miss a test, you need a valid excuse to required for a makeup test and so on. The final exam is graded like a chapter test, but it is different. It'll be kind of like a take-home test. You have multiple days. It'll be longer, but you'll have multiple days, and it'll cover everything that we've covered in our material. There's a special populations office at the Wenatchee campus. If you qualify for any of those services, sometimes there's accommodations that can be made for the testing primarily. So just a couple things um, that are available for extra help. Here's my phone number again. I did talk about office hours, but I don't have any assigned this quarter. Um, there is a tutor center at the library. I'm not quite certain what's going on this summer. Usually they have student volunteers, and if there are some students up there or somebody doing that this summer, they're usually very familiar with My Math Labs. I do recommend that you can form study groups and work with classmates if that's possible. A little more difficult with online courses, but you could hopefully look for that if you can do that. And there are also a lot of online resources that can kind of put a different voice to something if you're struggling with the videos I present or the videos and extra help that's on My Math Lab. I really do believe if you consistently work hard at this course, I believe you can succeed, and it's my goal to help you do that. Anything in the syllabus is subject to change, instructors' discretion, those kind of things. If we have some major problem that happens around our plan here, I might have to change something. But I don't anticipate that. I've run through this course this way a couple times. Well, good luck. Give me an email when you can. Talk about basically generally where you live, what town you live in, and what's your plan for proctoring services.